Every once in a while, you have a period where a writer or artist seems to be doing dang near everything at one of the big two. Bendis had his time at Marvel and DC separately. Donny Cates, Jonathan Hickman. But it's rare. In fact, I'm not sure if it's ever happened that one writer is tackling flagship street-level solo series at both Marvel and DC, and also crushing independent solo series as well. But right now, we're living in the Zdarskyverse. And like it or not, Chip Zdarsky is God. This week, we're going to look at a phenomenon I've come to call the Zdarsky Hegemony and its implications for the world. I'm Dan Umphin, and this is the Doomcast. Hey, thanks for watching, and if you're cool, do me a favor and hit subscribe and the bell. I make about one video a week, and they're all great, so why not just look at my face more every opportunity that you get. Anyway, all right, all of those other writer guys that I mentioned, John Hickman, Donny Cates, Brian Michael Bendis, amateurs. Dilettantes. Let me break it down for you all. Chip Zdarsky is the king, undisputed champion of comic books. But who is he? Chip Zdarsky was an experiment conducted by the Canadian government in the late 1970s. It escaped, despite their best efforts, and is now at large. Or at medium. I've met him. He's not too short, but he's not really huge. Originally given the codename Steve Murray, the entity now known as Chip Zdarsky has been creating comics for years under that pen name. I first became familiar with his work through 2013's Sex Criminals with Matt Fraction. He'd already established himself with works like Fierce, Monster Cops, Prison Funnies, as well as a regular column with Toronto's National Post. Apparently Steve Murray, a name that somehow sounds more fake than Chip Zdarsky, created the Chip Zdarsky persona as some sort of running prank, an alternate persona that he built as a sort of loser doofus, a struggling but awful cartoonist that he could use to post online. But it eventually became a persona that he adopted and even brought that kind of antagonistic, somewhat playful persona to cons. And he ultimately started writing and illustrating under that name more frequently. In his collab issue with Donny Cates on Crossover, another writer I also love, Crossover is a book where comic characters have spilled over into the real world. And Steve Murray, the person, confronts Chip Zdarsky, his creation, since he's technically a comic character. And that issue is one of the most powerful pieces of metafiction in a series that is full of nothing but amplified non-stop metafiction about metafiction. I came to really appreciate his character work and grasp on dialogue through Howard the Duck, but especially Peter Parker's Spectacular Spider-Man. There's people who write repartee, but then there's people who write dialogue that feels thoroughly immersive and very genuine, and he really gets that. He really gets the characterization of people through the way that they speak in a way that not every comic writer gets. The issue where Jonah and Peter do a podcast together is beautiful, and it transforms their relationship in comics perfectly. The long run that he's had on Daredevil culminated in the Devil's Reign event, which was great. I did another video on that as well. And now that title, which I have always felt is Marvel's true flagship title, is now rebooted with #1 back with Marco Cicchetto and pencils as well. And now he's doing Batman 125 and onward with Jorge Jimenez at DC. I don't think anyone has ever written both Batman and another Marvel flagship title at the same time. And these are both street-level hero books, which are in and of themselves, they've got some similarities, but are vastly different as characters, but also very similar in terms of the value for the respective imprints that they represent. Hard-boiled crime noir stories for the most part, debuting both in the same month, weeks apart from each other. But at the same time, he's doing Newburn, an incredible book that's also a hard-boiled detective story, richly illustrated, about Easton Newburn, an ex-cop who's sort of a detective that handles cases in the precarious balance between multiple organized crime syndicates and the police, which I have almost no doubt will end up getting developed for television or streaming somehow, because it is perfect and gripping, and if it was on TV streaming, literally nobody would not be talking about it. But Also this month, his Substack series, Public Domain, finally launched through Image in print, which is a very clever satire of the world of comic book movies and the culture that surrounds them, an indictment of the way creators and artists actually end up getting paid, which is nothing, for their works that get adapted into movies like that. And this from the guy who's developing IP for Marvel and DC's two biggest properties, well, two of them. Undoubtedly. If nothing else, the confluence of writing the biggest books for the big two and then making fun of how ridiculous comic book movies have gotten all at the same time, baller shit. Full stop. I'm sorry if you thought this was going to be a review of Daredevil and Batman. It's not. You should just go read them. There's plenty more that we could talk on Chip Zdarsky, though. He's a solid writer and illustrator and a liquid human being who occasionally brings a gaseous sense of humor to his work. The fourth state of matter is plasma, and I did not know how to make that fit into this joke. But his contributions to modern comics are vast already and only just beginning. Do I know him? No. But he drew on my Howard the Duck once for nothing. That's ultra cool. Did I get his permission to do this episode? No. It's really cool of him not to sue me, though, because that's who he is. A really cool guy. And handsome, too. Anyway, thanks for watching, and make sure you add Batman, Daredevil, Newburn, and Public Domain to your Pullbox dummies. Thanks. We'll see you next week.